Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Open Dialogue. I am here today discussing, as you already know, about social issues in the community. I have chosen different topics so that we can be more aware of what's happening in our surroundings and make more use of the guests that I'm providing each week with information. They have their expertise as well as their own experience to talk about this. And as well, the lines are open for all you viewers to please call in and give your opinions, your statements, your comments, because we want to make this interactive. We don't want to just talk and give our points of view. It's really important that you take part and you participate in these shows in order for us to learn and grow and develop together. Now, today's topic I have decided was firstly talking about how women's role has, developed and improved. But then I had a guest that sort of said, we'll turn it around, and he'll be joining us soon. Unfortunately, a little bit late due to the public transport in London, but fine, he will be here. But in the meantime, I'm going to be discussing the topic around masculinity in the world today. Now, that is a very big topic, and inshallah we will be continuing this topic even after this break in Salah. And it can go in any direction, and I'm really interested to know what the direction is going to be. And obviously you can actually be part of the direction, because I'm coming from one perspective, trying to give you a bird's eye view, bringing in different sort of characteristics as to what is masculinity, how does it impact our world today in this century, how does tradition, culture and religion play a part? What role do women have today, or is it still a boys' club? And is it just something that is an issue or an impact in the Western world, or is it also amongst our Muslims? And with me today we have Sayyid Molana Razavi. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
I'm going to find out about, what does our religion say, what do other religions say about this, and we're going to just go into the conversation about discussing this in a much wider aspect. I mean, this is a social issue, especially today when we see statistics of so many suicidal rates and mental health amongst male. We also see a lot of Muslim male that are in the prisons today, and we also hear generally in the news, as we are aware of the crimes that are committed by the male. And is this something that we're just ignoring? Is this something that we are just taking as in it'll always be that way and boys will be boys? Or do we need to actually make an impact on certain ways of thinking as to what is our gender got to do with our behavior, our actions, and where is it coming from? So Sayyid, just firstly, how important is it that we can define masculinity from a religious point of view, and actually what is the responsibility just from a religious point of view?
Yeah, there's no doubt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, as a creator, as a wise creator, has created us in this format, and therefore it is the duty of the elders of the family to bring up the children, especially the boys, in a certain way, and the girls in a certain way. And there are instructions and guidelines for both. For example, it's very important, although nowadays, especially when we witness what is going on with LGBT and this and that, it is very important to emphasize on these points of views, and the role of boys in our society, role of men in our society, role of the girls in our society, and what they are supposed to do. Although Islamic teachings are very open up to a great extent, but at the same time, it does have some guidelines. For example, when we look at the upbringing of the boys in our society, there are narrations that we have to teach them how to be masculine, how to play their role in the society.
What is masculine?
from very early stages of. Although it doesn't mean to be rough, it doesn't mean
That's
to
what
be.
yeah.
It doesn't mean to be aggressive. Yes, to use aggression in the right place is praised in Islamic teachings. For example, or raising hands on the weak, or oppressing the downtrodden people, or people who are under your obligation, that is not masculinity.
Yeah.
And that is not considered as bravery. Bravery is that when you stand up for your rights, when it is right to stand up. For example, if an aggression is taking place against you, against your family, against your property, against your values, this is the place where you have to show.
Do you think it's mainly for the male to take that stance, or can a
No.
woman play that role as well?
In this, there is no difference. Although the type of reaction may be different from a lady to a man, but if you look at the brave ladies of Islam, you would see how, for example, Hazrat Zahra Salatullah alayha stood firm against the oppression. How Bibi Zainab Salatullah alayha gave lectures. Even people have narrated that when they heard her speech, they were remembering Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. If Islam says that women should stay in the background, then what was Bibi Zainab Salatullah alayha doing? She wouldn't be doing anything wrong. She was following the instructions of an infallible Imam, and she was doing what she was doing in front of the Imam of age. Imam of the age after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam was Imam Zain al-Abidin. Although he was ill, but she wouldn't, because we believe that Bibi Zainab Salatullah alayha is not infallible, and non-infallible has a duty and obligation to follow the leader of the time, who is infallible. And the leader of the time immediately after Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam was Imam Zain al-Abidin. And that's why we see in the narrations and history that when the tents of the looted, the tents of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam were being burnt, Bibi Zainab Salatullah alayha, in front of all those who had remained and not martyred, and in front of the ladies and kids and those who remained alive, she goes to Imam Zain al-Abidin and shows her allegiance. Although she was quite eloquent lady, she was an elder, she was she had a respect in the community, but she was giving importance to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam, and taking instructions from Imam Zain al-Abidin. And in presence of Imam Zain al-Abidin, she gave that khutbah. If her khutbah was wrong, if her reaction were wrong, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam would have stopped her. But Imam Zain al-Abidin was there, and she was giving her khutbah, and she defended the values of teachings of Ahlebait alayhi salatu wasalam in the manner Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib would have defended bravely.
It's really interesting that what you've said we've heard many, many times, and we are very familiar with this, and I'm sure the audience is as well. I just want to bring it back in today. Do you think that women are given that platform, that space, in especially the Muslim community? Do you think that we have enough women that are given these sorts of spaces to speak? And firstly, if they are, I find there's quite a lot of judgment and criticism with regards to how they need to be in a particular way, firstly, to even be sitting up there and speaking. And the first thing they are, basically ridiculed or judged, or whether it's hijab or the way in which they speak. And there's so much emphasis on, I'm not saying you shouldn't have and uphold a particular standard, but we are all in a particular journey, and we are all taking on different roles in our own personal journey. And if we as women, for example, come up having something to give shouldn't that be more light than saying, oh, well, she's not correct in a particular political way or so-called Islamic way, that they're not actually given that right to even be sitting amongst someone like yourself. In certain channels, it would not be allowed. And where does religion come into that? And what is the right and wrong in that? And, you know, what are the boundaries in that?
Well, I mean, quite a lot of what goes on in the Muslim community is cultural.
Exactly.
I wouldn't say that it is Islamic. I mean, Islam says that as long as Islamic boundaries are respected and
we are on public TV, by the way.
Of course, we have probably millions of people are watching
exactly.
us.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong in that, and to present a show or discuss a subject, there's nothing wrong. I mean, but again, I would say in some Muslim countries, women are not tolerated at all.
Exactly.
And but in other countries, yes. I mean, for example, Islamic Republic of Iran before revolution and after revolution, you should compare how much the difference is. That according to one statistics, the number of female graduates is higher than male now in Iran. So all these ladies who are educated, who are reaching positions in the society, have to work, have to go in different places, have to be in offices, have to be...
If there's opportunities for them.
Yeah.
I mean, are we living still? I mean, as we know in the West, it is still quite male-dominated as well. So we can't just say it's only in the Muslim culture, but shouldn't we be, Muslim religion, we as Muslims shouldn't uphold just the culture. We should be actually at the forefront of showing what it should be, like our Prophet many years ago, to actually give so much rights to women that even today they're still trying to catch up with it, but we're still not living it, and we're still not abiding. I mean, Islam unfortunately cannot be seen amongst the ones that follows. It needs to be from the actual teachings, and even those teachings are still not being upheld in the correct form, and especially when it comes to gender.
Yeah, I mean, although we are discussing this subject, but according to some reports, even in this society, in the non-Muslim society of
The Western
UK
world, yeah.
or Western world, even now the ladies are discriminated. I mean, for example, the director, if the director of a company is a male,
yeah,
and if the same position is given to the female, the salary would be less,
yeah.
and benefits and other advantages would be less. So ladies are even today struggling in the Western society, but it doesn't mean that we should copy that. We should be
ahead of that,
setting an example for the non-Muslims.
Because we're always ridiculed and judged for being backward and not being equal and not having these things that are set in place, which obviously it's seen that the Western world is ahead of us, but actually when it comes to gender, they're not. And we actually have the rulings to prove that, yet we still don't live by it. And that's what's really shocking and surprising me. There's some places that would not have you and me sit on a channel, many other channels, to sit there and speak, because apparently it is not considered to be, appropriate. And you'll even get viewers, making assumptions about certain things, which is really out of order. And then how do we grow as a community and develop? And yes, we're going to have these uncomfortable conversations and sort of things that maybe people don't want to address. But that's the only way we're going to learn and develop in order for us to really uphold what we stand for. So also I noticed amongst men, yes, especially amongst the Shia, yes, we do mourn and we'll cry, and it's known very widely. However, that is not necessarily taken into the home where they have I'm just generalizing here, by the way. I'm not saying it's everyone, but I deal with, cases in everyone's homes personally in my profession. And there are a lot of problems within the household where the male still has a very unequal way of looking at things, and the empathy, the compassion for your partner, for your family members is not necessarily there, because to uphold the masculinity about being in a particular way has to be where you are authoritative, dictatorship, and not necessarily showing sensitivity and emotion. So now, according to the role models in our religion, are there examples that can actually prove that you can be strong, you can take care, but at the same time you can show that empathy? Because a lot of people up till today, Western world, and especially in the Muslim world, are being abused verbally, physically by male, majority up till today, and in the household, a lot of them are putting up with it, and it is really an ongoing issue and a problem.
Yeah, I mean, we cannot deny it. It's happening in the society, and we need, it would take a lot to change. We have to constantly have programs, we have to have discussions, we have to educate, especially the male in our society. See, without education, we will not be able to change the society.
And the kind of education we need. I know that even just studying a bit of psychology, our children are growing up with parents today looking at them first as role models. And it is not just the responsibility of the father or just the mother. The father plays a huge role in bringing up the child. And even if they're not there a lot of the time, if, for example, on an average household, the mum is actually looking after the child and has more interaction and contact, but actually the father's role and just being present, whether you're in a separated family, divorced family, or extended family, does play a huge part.
Of course, of course.
And it's not just to say that the father brings up the son and the mother brings up the daughter, or whatever it may be. It is really something that, if you are not having the right mindset and psychology within yourself as a parent, it does filter to your children's upbringing.
They notice. I mean, the children notice everything.
Exactly, and studies have shown.
Not only they notice from early stage. According to some reports, even the children notice while they are in the womb.
Yes, yes. I mean, they can sense.
It stresses them.
Yes.
If a child who is conceived while the problems are going on between the couple and comes to this world in that environment and grows up in that environment, you would see the child is continuously agitated.
There is going to be something I'm about to say which maybe people are not going to be liking, but I deal with cases every day, especially people that are about to separate or consider divorce. And as much as it's hated, sometimes it is the healthier way for the children in order for the parents to depart. However, a lot of families use the religious side of one aspect of having a family unit as the best way forward for the child. But that unit has to be healthy in order for that child to grow healthy. And if that unit is not healthy, then that child, no matter how much that unit should be together, that's why divorce, as much as it's hated, is allowed, and it's not a promotion what I'm just saying here. Please take it into consideration. I deal with many cases, and people have taken steps over months and years to reconcile, but they cannot. And if they come to a decision, or one party comes to a decision where they do need to separate for the best interest of their own well-being, and even that is not enough, we're not considering ourselves as, we need to be well, because we should just do things for the family. If we're not well, we cannot do for the family, by the way. This is psychological facts, okay? We have to be well within ourselves, and it's not selfishness.
Yeah.
So this is something we need to highlight and talk about. And if it means that we have to separate in order for that child to grow healthy and have the best from both parents separately, it is acceptable. And there shouldn't be the guilt from people around to use as an excuse that there's selfishness, or that person is going and entering into this decision because they're actually not considering the child. So these are the things that we have to also consider in our community, that to be in a family, you have to be in a healthy family for it to work.
Yeah.
And to have children, having a man and a woman, or even having an absent man, you can still bring up children healthily. And for them to have role models today that are male, that shows them that you can be tough, you can be caring and protective, but not also to uphold what society sees. Because society does give us a way of living, which we have this model of our world as to how we present ourselves. And there is a book about the mask of masculinity, because a lot of men have come across today, have opened up about how they have a facade in front of people as to how they're tough, even amongst their friends, even if they love their wives and they have to go back home and they want to respect their wives, but they won't do it in front of their friends because, fine, there's a laughter about, they're held by a whip or whatever it may be. But at the second time, if it's continuous, it does play and the ego takes over. And also we have a problem where growing up teenagers now are lost as to which way to follow, because not sharing and talking openly as a male or a man growing up, in certain communities, there is not the space given. There's not the opportunity for them to feel that they can feel vulnerable. They can be sensitive. They also have emotion. And that's why we have so much mental illness. And I personally do coach male. And I've shared a lot of this because it's nice to know that someone is not going to judge you and someone is not going to direct you in a particular way, or whatever you say is not going to come back to you in a negative way. So I want the viewers to please take part in the show and call in with your views about, what's happening around us, the gender, the male gender in particular, and how are we still fighting as women to even make a stance, especially as Muslim women. Why are, just because we wear the hijab in a particular way, or we're seen a particular way, is that something that's the first thing that anyone sees? Whereas it's also hijab for male, it's also a restriction for both genders, and we need to obviously adhere to that. And we shouldn't just be so judgmental and look at the content and the substance behind it. Now we're going to go into this a little bit more in the second half with.
I wanted to quote a hadith here. I mean, when you were mentioning about the problems, and in some cases it is better to separate.
Yeah.
There is a hadith which says that one of the du'as that are not answered is the du'a of a husband or a man who complains about his wife in his du'a.
Oh, really?
And his du'a is not answered because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in reply would say, if
Show
you're not
mercy.
happy, if you don't like her, the key is in your hand.
Okay.
Let her go.
Okay. That's very
Wha-
powerful.
So it
Yeah.
is very clear that the du'a, the instruction in this hadith are very open.
Right.
If you, instead of cursing her, instead of complaining about her,
Let her go.
let her go.
So that's very valuable information, and that's why we're having these conversations, because people don't want to talk about that. And also amongst the scholars, I have many women that come to me who is on the verge of divorce or thinking about it, and they've come to a stage where they've done therapy, or they've spent even months, even some of them years. Actually, I'm dealing with clients that have got years that they have been separated. Sorry. We have a caller online. I'll come back to that. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Wa alaikum salam. Can you state what you'd like to say, please?
If Allah blew the ruh to Adam al-Islam and the angels, they bowed to Adam al-Islam. So did the Farishte, the angels basically, did they bow down to Hawa al-Islam because she
Oh, because of the gender. You're trying to say that they bowed down to Hawa alayhi salam.
Well, I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam and Eve together. And then Allah requested Shaitan to bow down in front of the creation of God
Right.
that was created. Obviously, the leader plays an important role because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us as social being.
Yes.
And requirement of a social being is to have a leader. So of course the leader of that tiniest family of the beginning of the creation of of humankind was Adam and Eve. And even in that case, there had to be a prophet and a leader. And Adam was not only leader of his family, he was leader of the whole
Yeah.
ummah, which was two persons.
Yes.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala requested Shaitan to bow down in front of the creation of him, which was Adam.
Okay.
And
But I think the caller was saying about an angel bowing down to Hawa alayhi salam. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think this is what I understood. Is the caller still on the line?
No, he's not, unfortunately.
Okay.
But you know what? I can just tell from the voice that you're a very young caller, very brave, and thank you so much for calling in. And I really give credit due to you for being brave to call in with that question, because I think what he's trying to highlight as to how that probably, you know,
The sajda
even at
was
that
for
time,
male or
yes,
female?
yes, exactly.
Very good question.
Very good, and it's an extremely amazing statement as well.
I would say the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presented is to the whole discussion was about the creation of God. The argument of Shaitan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not on Adam or Eve.
It was the creation.
He was criticizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala why you are creating Adam, i.e. Adam and Eve.
Yeah, the human.
Why you are creating human being. And I am superior
to that, yes. Yes.
Because Shaitan is a metaphysical being, and he considered himself as a metaphysical being as superior to
the human,
to the physical being.
Yes, of course.
So the whole discussion was on the creation of human being, and in return, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to show to test the obedience of Shaitan by asking him to bow down in front of the creation of God, which was Adam and Eve together.
Right. Thank you so much for the call. Hopefully we'll look forward to hearing more. And as I was quickly going on to the point of the scholars...
Let me clarify one more point.
Yeah, of course.
We followers of Ahlebait alayhi salatu wasalam believe that Adam and Eve were equally created from the same elements.
Yes. So both male and female.
Eve is not the creation of
the rib, like has been said. Yes.
That
yes.
is
incorrect.
That is a Christian belief.
Yes.
And unfortunately, a majority of Ahlul Sunnah
they believe that too. Yes, I have heard that.
And the teachings of Ahlebait do not say that.
Okay.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam and Eve from the same elements.
Separately. Yes.
Separately.
Yeah.
I mean, all the elements were there, and He created Adam and Eve from the same elements.
Same way.
Maybe proportion of some elements according to the need and requirement of a female body, maybe more in female or more in male.
Okay.
And that's a scientific
of
discussion
course,
which has to be...
Hopefully you're going to take over from this side.
All right.
So when we say about the how does it manifest, and what was your reason for picking this topic really?
One of the reasons why I became interested, well, I've been continuously interested in this topic, but it has become more relevant in my mind because of what appears to be the increase or the maintenance of these staggering statistics in terms of mental health or poor mental health, the existence of mental health disorders amongst men, particularly men of a certain age, incarceration rates, homelessness, and in an era in which we're living in where women are being empowered, which rightly so, and the playing field is being equalized.
Are you getting worried about that?
No, I'm overjoyed. As a father of 3 daughters, I'm overjoyed.
Of course, yeah.
And I think it makes for a better society.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, if there are those that are being left behind, or those that are not coping, or this transition that the world is going through and modern society is going through, this adjustment, I've started to wonder in terms of my clinical work and in people I've come into contact with, speaking to other therapists, about something going on with young men in particular.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something about not just masculinity and men, but young men,
Men.
particularly vulnerable young men or segments of the society.
What are the main things that you found in your work about the young men that is being raised again and again and again?
Well, one of the things that comes to mind is the type of homes that many are being raised in because of, like, for example, parenting styles, family breakdown.
Yeah.
So maybe 40 years ago, there were less households headed by women. So you have a kind of strange dynamic or a really challenging dynamic when you have young men in, quite significant numbers in, for example, Britain and America, to just name a few societies, where women head households and they're raising boys into men. That difficult transition from what they call boys to men.
Yeah.
And there is some real challenge that is taking place. That with the best will in the world, we've found. We're going back to the welfare state of the 1980s and this kind of idea of, you don't need any men and women can go alone and you don't need men. But now actually people falling back, even the hardliners falling back and say, hey, some of these major problems we're seeing in society is called no dad in the house. We don't need to be a sociologist, a psychotherapist, or any kind of statistician. It's called no daddy in the house.
Yeah.
And it's a real problem.
Oh, sorry, we actually have a caller online. Sorry. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Can you tell me your name and what would you like to say, please?
Yeah, my name is Sarah. And I just want to say that the crisis of the masculinity in the world is because of the upbringing of the children by the mothers.
By the mothers.
Because nowadays, mothers, they don't spend much time as they used to.
Okay. All right, thank you for your call. So I understand what she's trying to say there, because there's a lot of women that are actually working,
And
but
it's not their actual fault because of the pressure of the monetary pressure, social pressure, and the other pressure, sometimes the single parents.
Of course.
So they have to do it. And if they don't get, as you mentioned earlier, they don't get the father doesn't play the part of his own upbringing.
Yes.
So that will lag in the upbringing of the children.
Definitely.
So it will, in the long run, because they haven't seen the father, they are the role models. So they act what is around them.
Absolutely. Whatever we don't get in the house, we're going to look outside, and the dangers of that is what is that influence outside coming inside.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, do you think? Thank you so much for your call.
And in the olden days, if the father is not there, the uncles and the others,
the extended family,
family members, they take the responsibility of as a father.
Definitely.
So that will compensate it. But nowadays, the own fathers, they don't take the responsibility.
Definitely. Yeah.
So it's, that's affecting the...
Thank you. Was there anything else you would like to say? Oh, she's gone.
No, I think that's okay.
Thank you so much for your call. I really appreciate you calling in. Inshallah, we hear from you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Assalamu alaikum. What she said is really important and vital, and that is one side where the parents, if they are separated, I know of families that still make it work if the dad is still involved, or they have other male role models in the family to take and step in. But like she said, but do you think that also depends on sort of maybe class background? Do you think that comes into play, or is that not really relative?
No, it's interesting you raise class, because I think class is an essential aspect of the whole discussion. If you look at society, for example, in Britain, where there tends to be crisis amongst young men with respect to their masculinity, where we see the proliferation of violence and delinquent behavior, or like just young men that are lost,
Yeah.
Right? You see that in the what they call the MGTOW movement.
Yeah.
You see that in the incel movement, and these kind of like these are like reactions to feminism and quite warped and dangerous ideas that kind of are starting to emerge. But like with all forms of extremism, which often appear, and young men can be quite susceptible to, whether it's religious extremism, racial extremism, or even gender reaction to gender issues. You find amongst the middle class and the elite, those roles of being the provider, of being the breadwinner, of being this kind of having a level of competency and power, those things still exist amongst the middle class, amongst the elite.
What, the mental health?
In terms of men feeling, or young men even feeling like they understand their role, they feel empowered, they feel like they have a future. They feel like they're unequivocal about their masculinity, however they choose to express that.
Yeah.
Those from the upper echelons, because one of the things that men do is provide. So the more privileged, they still are able to function.
Okay. So
on
it
that
is
level.
a class thing.
But if we go across the northeast of England, where where men used to earn their money by men being men and being physical in the steel mills, in these kind of industry, and these and car industry, and so much has been changed because of the mechanization, computer software.
Yes,
and
taken away.
So there's a lot of jobs, a lot of industry has suffered. So you've got a whole load of men who don't really have a skill. They don't have a trade. They're not able to provide. And then that's where you start seeing young men getting into things like bodybuilding and taking steroids. I'm not saying bodybuilding is a problem. Bodybuilding is a very healthy outlet.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, you can start to see certain excessive types of...
to substitute.
A kind of crutch.
Yeah. And do you not also think that nowadays, like you mentioned earlier, women are also stepping up? And they are taking on the roles, and they are given more in this society, in this day and age, the opportunities, and they're taking their education to the next level. And as much as it's a problem in the household where they're not there with their children, but I also coach a lot of people where parenting is not about just being in the home, because you can be at home all day, and I see parents all the time, especially moms, but they can be not there with their children. Okay, they can be out there, having these baby groups, and they're just chit-chatting, or they're out there, having breakfast, coffees and lunches. So it doesn't really necessarily mean you're in the home, you're actually there for your children. You can actually work, and I know very successful women, in fact, in the Muslim community, who are single moms, who are working, very highly professional women, and they have got it all together, even with their children, bringing up young men and boys. So there is a whole array of things that are emerging, which we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And that can actually play a part as well with the masculine side of things, because men are having to compete more with the women, with education, with the jobs, with what they can provide, because the women already got it.
I think it's oftentimes about the journey. In terms of identity is a kind of individual thing, and it's about self-perception. The fact that a woman is successful economically doesn't really mean much to a man who's centered. Or when I say doesn't mean much, means it's not going to shake the foundations he's standing on, because he himself,
vice versa for the women.
Even if he was penniless, he's a man, and he knows what he's about. He's not his manhood is not. There's not in terms of success. Allah has made success so abundant that by my wife being successful doesn't mean there's not enough to go around for me. There's plenty. There's plenty of success. So I'm not rivaling. We're not rivaling. We're only enhancing each other to build a bigger whole. But if it's perceived as, oh my God, these women are doing well at university, then it becomes a problem. Or maybe when higher education is seen and start to see a bit more, maybe question, is it more effeminate? Is it for more the metrosexual type of guy? Or it's, it doesn't, the outwardly masculine guy doesn't necessarily have that affinity with higher education.
Even in Islamic jurisprudence recently, there are changes taking place, because according to Islamic jurisprudence, if a person killed a breadwinner in the which used to be a man only, the punishment was very severe. Now, I had a discussion on this with the Sunni scholars and Shia scholars both, and both agreed that in the modern society, where there are families where ladies are breadwinner. So if a person targets a breadwinner of the family, whether male or female, the punishment would be exactly equal to men.
Okay.
And And this is new development because this was
I never knew
unimaginable in the past.
Of course.
But taking into account what's the changes, the transformation.
The changes are taking place. Quite a lot of ladies are the main breadwinners of the family. So the punishment is changed accordingly.
There's always been distinction as to what the rules are, what Islamic teachings are, and also how culture, society perceives things, and that role, reality and the model of the world is different. Like you said, it doesn't really make, success or a whole rounded man just for a particular profession that they hold. Yet there are still women out there that would only choose according to those boxes being ticked in a particular way with regards to it. So there is that discourse, unfortunately, how we live society and perceive society, and what's that influence, and are we getting more Western in that way, or Hollywood?
No, the data doesn't. The data never lies, and I've got it's a kind of question, right, in terms of women and their the patterns of when it comes to marrying. And it seems that quite across most societies and across the ages that women don't marry down socially. So women marry their equal in status, or men that are above them, but men have no problem marrying down. So it does kind of stand the test of time in terms of that one.
Yeah, it's the way in which the world is right now, regardless of what religions, or
culture across the cultures is the same. It's the same.
Absolutely. But even still, in the Muslim community in particular, do you think it's still a boys' club? Do you still think that we're not given the platform? Or do you still think, even with our education and, whatever sort of professions and how high we are, there are certain things that we are still held back in?
In some quarters, yes. And I think you see the existence of this when you see a reaction to this when you find that there's like women-only mosques being opened in a number of countries or in various cities, and it's a reaction to the feeling of not feeling that not included in terms of the decision making.
Yes.
So if you have a board of trustees or a directorship that kind of has a vision and there's 12 members, and then you have like a sister, then it is kind of is it just a symbolic role to have a female there? But how much power is she, or how much of a feminine perspective is she really bringing?
That's what I'm saying.
So it may be questionable that sisters don't feel really included in this decision making. So there's still an issue,
especially with the important roles and the important issues. Like I was going to say before the break, even with the matter of divorce, as we said, it does happen. It is allowed. Unfortunately, people do separate, but a lot of women that I personally know in my circle or clientele that going to the scholars, unfortunately, they are not heard to as much, and the male always, no matter what the situation is, and it's clearly out there to say that he has left her for maybe 3 years or more, but no, just wait, it's fine, How does that happen?
I mean, I was asked this question recently, that can a female become the director of an Islamic center? So there's nothing wrong. But although I explained it, but the community was not ready to accept that. Although the lady who was going to be the director of the center was far more qualified, and because she didn't have other job, she would have been an excellent person to run an Islamic center.
What's the fear, do you think, Sayyid?
I don't know. They think this is a position that should be held only by men.
What is
and when you say
failing?
when you say they, sometimes it's even the women in the community that are part of that
absolutely. I'm glad you said that.
Patriarchy isn't just male. Patriarchy is an ideology.
Unfortunately, Muslim women do not support Muslim women as much as they should, or even just in general. I can say that out loud, and I can see that.
We had this. We started. Both of you have been to our center. In
yes.
We started this program, and we deliberately started the program to be mixed. I mean, men and women sit together, and biggest opposition that we have is from women.
Okay.
Why you are mixing men and women in the same hall when the discussion is going on? The whole idea is to discuss and raise the
openly,
points.
Yes. Just like how we are in our schools.
And it's open. It's a live program, and it is watched by, some of our programs are watched by more than 5,000 people.
Yes, I understand that. And we want improvement. We want development. We want growth for everyone. So we all need to sit together and have these sort of dialogues. And there's nothing untoward towards it. It's just your mindset, how your psyche and your psychology is thinking. It's just really sad, and it's actually something that really this community needs to wake up about, because it depends how you see life and how you perceive life for you to even think that something's bad and wrong when it's actually innocent. Just like when children are playing together, you know, in front of the children, in front of the adults, or in a public space, but oh yeah, no, they cannot mix. Now, where does that come into it as well?
A very controversial area, because this would send tremors through some conservatives.
That's what I said.
You know, it would be feeling just unsettled.
I
so,
said this is going to be a very uncomfortable
But
conversation.
the director of this TV is lady.
MashaAllah. Wow.
This is Zaidi.
MashaAllah.
Okay, no, but these conversations need to be had. I deal with people every day that have such a very limited tunnel vision mindset, and I'm not talking about the older generations here. I'm talking about the young and my generation, and even, you know, people that are working in the city, but no, when it comes home, it's traditional, it's this, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it shouldn't be limiting, and it shouldn't be something where we are not moving forward, because actually our religion is more than even the Western world, especially when it comes to women. But we're not following in that through.
But I think young men, Muslim men included, but young heterosexual men in particular, will have a problem or will have a challenge, because there's a journey that men go through generally from boy to men, when it's about one, identifying who you are, also mastering your craft, whatever that may be, or your vocation, and kind of defining yourself. And it's a very challenging time, irrespective of the political climate, the economic climate. It's a very challenging time.
It is.
Then when you've got so much shifts taking place, and if it appears that women are excelling, oftentimes young men, boys, they feel insecure or they feel lost. It impacts them in a negative way. And that's why I think that you really have to carve out spaces, safe spaces, one for men to be amongst men, older men and younger men, to speak about issues related to masculinity, and really because once there's a woman in a room, it's a whole different dynamic. You do understand that, right?
Of course, absolutely.
It's a different frequency, it's a different electricity in the room.
Definitely.
So sometimes males need to go away and do male-like things and have that environment, that safe space to be vulnerable, to be bold, to be bodacious, be whatever they need to be to define themselves, so that they can be secure in themselves, and then you'll have more of a kind of a possibility of a kind of healthy male that can, you know, when he's marriageable material or his interactions with the other gender isn't a confrontation, that he can work because he's secure in himself. But if you have a society where, I mean, I was doing some research, because I'm putting together a program in September, inshallah, about exploring black masculinity and psychological well-being. And so I've been doing this research, and I came across this program in South Africa, and it was talking about hashtag all men are trash. So if you live in an environment, or, you know, the public sphere, and all men are dogs, and the Me Too means not just Me Too means certain individual men are wrong, but the whole of masculinity is wrong. In fact, there's this word that is overused, and I think if I hear it one more time, I'm going to spontaneously combust. Toxic masculinity. It's not cool for young boys to be hearing that and growing up in that with that drip. Mind-numbing, brainwashing. You know, how are they going to feel about themselves when they come to puberty and when they come to their masculinity? How are they going to understand that? So it's a real challenge. So,
but it's funny how.
So we live in crisis right now.
But it's funny how you say that, and just the thought came into my mind, even as the caller spoke about, you know, men being a little bit off the rails in whatever way, mentally or in any sort of state, because of the mum not being at home. But then, how come that doesn't affect, you know, the girls as much? It doesn't mean that, you know, the father's actually there most of the time anyway. They also have an impact on that girl that's growing up as to how she chooses her spouse, how she even views men, and what she would actually, you know, accept as well. It's both. But how come she, even in the same environment, is still excelling?
She's excelling materially, possibly, because
mentally.
If we have toxic masculinity, we must have toxic femininity.
But it's the statistics, as you said, that's the male.
And what happens is that possibly, it's theory, pure hypothesis, that men being the external, what happens with men is externalized. But what happens with women is internalized. So the toxicity of the men, if you want to use that term, or dysfunctionality, is seen in violence, aggression, unemployment, mental health. Yeah. With women, it's seen in depression, in self-harm. More women attempt suicide than men.
Actually, I heard it the other way around.
More
men complete suicide.
Right.
And it's to do with the methods that men use, being more testosterone loaded. The methods they use to attempt to take their life usually go on to become completed because of the methods. But in terms of women, taking overdose and things like that, it happens.
That could be attention seeking as well sometimes, because if you want to do it right.
It's a bit of a controversial statement.
I know, I told you this is going to be controversial.
It's a controversial hour, but yeah, so I'm saying, so the women in the society, women have issues too. Women have issues too, but they manifest in a different way.
Okay.
So you can have a professional woman who's successful on the outside, she's got it all together. You speak to her as a therapist, and then you find this,
of course,
neuroses and these problems and these issues, and they're deep seated.
Absolutely.
But functioning, hey, you wouldn't know. To the naked eye, you wouldn't know.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, I kind of do something similar to you anyway, so I totally hear what you're saying, and I'm just going to be obviously countering everything that's going to be here to make this, sort of hopefully the viewers get a view, even if they're not going to be speaking, because I'm going to be hopefully speaking from that sort of point of view.
Sure. It'd be good to hear from the viewers.
I know,
it'd be
please
really
call
interesting.
in. This is a live show. Please call in with your views. We're not here to judge anyone. We just want to hear your points of view, or even any statements that you have. Please call into the show. The details are on your screen right now. We still have, about 20 minutes to go, so you've still got time. So please do call in. So, Sayed, do you think that as the scholars and the ulama that's out there now, what do we need to take now, the steps, to be realistic about bringing this into the open eye and into everyday living, with regards to, example, being treated a little bit unfairly because of your gender, because the male has always been seen that it's the way men are, and that's fine. And even families nowadays, they're like, boys will be boys. It's okay for them to, for example, infidelity and everything, it's still the woman's fault, for example, if that happens. Unfortunately, I hear that. Not the fact that it's the moral thing that is right and wrong, regardless. What happens?
Well, we need to change. We need to educate our members of our community. And as we have already discussed, the changes are taking place. The more ladies are educated and they graduate and they hold positions, the society has to change and accept it.
Yeah.
The way I mentioned, even Islamic Sharia is looking at the issues differently. So
that's really fascinating to hear.
It has to
revolutionary.
happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it has to happen, then it changes. I personally had discussion with Tahir al-Qadiri, the Ahlul Sunnah scholar, and some Shia scholars, and practically in Iran, this is what they are doing. They are not looking at the gender. They are looking at the breadwinner.
The role.
Role. Who played the breadwinner's role, male or female, and then the ruling is passed according to that. So it is happening, and this is only because of education. And
it's so interesting you say that, because I've always sort of cheerleaded that our religion is current. It's just that we don't follow it in that way, and we're not revising, and not to change things, but to look at it so that we can be still practical in this generation with our religious teachings, because we have a vision of looking at things and a lens of looking at things in a particular way to suit us, where we still keep our, it's not culture here. This is still religion. That's the problem. People, especially watching, unfortunately, in this channel, from the background that's from this channel, they have this way of living where it's more cultural than religion. You have that, unfortunately. And it is a problem, and it is wrong. They will even disregard the morals of someone, and the principle of the tradition comes in first. Now, how is that okay today? Seriously. I see this day and out is breaking families, it's breaking marriages, it's breaking relationships, which is really not necessary. And we are not being loud about this, because it's like, it's the way it's been. And your mum is there, we know there's Jannah under her feet, so you got to marry from my caste. You got to do this in a particular. I've had grown men come to me for coaching because they're miserable in their lives because they've been, blackmailed because of family.
Yeah, I call it religious bullying.
Yes. This is how it is.
And on top of all of this, what I have heard recently, that they are trying to push culture more than before. Like in Pakistani centers, Pakistani community, I think our Pakistani heritage.
Well, I didn't want to say Pakistani, but you said it, so that's fine.
Or in Indian community, that's Indian heritage. Iranians are being pushed to give more importance to the Iranian heritage rather than Islamic.
Well, that's where your own ego comes in. That's where your arrogance, that's where you're guided by your ego instead of your soul. That's where you are actually living and practicing not religiously. So let's be clear about this. If you're doing it, it's fine, but let's know where it's coming from. And it's most definitely not religion. Our religion is not like that. It never has been from the day it started. But now I see it seems to be in some areas pushing more and more towards that direction.
Maybe there's something going. There's a question that comes to mind in the sense of, at the time of when the religion was revealed, women often didn't play a public role. But maybe that was to do with the cultures of the time. That was just a cultural norm, and then religion becomes canonized, and because that's the kind of historical norm, it doesn't. Maybe there's nothing in the religion that's saying women cannot have a public life.
No,
but Muslims may struggle to kind of come to terms and think you're actually changing it, when all you're doing is manifesting a different cultural norm that the religion may or may not, according to the religious jurisprudence. If it allows it, then it's allowed for a reason. But maybe people struggle because they don't understand that, and they think, oh, this is deen because women didn't used to speak in public, or women didn't see women, or you didn't. So that becomes a necessity.
Of course, we have, as we know in psychology, we have this perception map, we have the model of our world that we live in, and it is obviously guided, we think it's by religion, but actually it's mainly through culture. And it's not just the Islamic and the Muslim world, around the world it's through culture. We're very patriotic towards the country that we were born, and we take that ahead more like a football team, even amongst our own brothers and sisters in Islam. We will fight them because of where we come from, more so than knowing that this human being, even from the same religion, it doesn't matter. You can be my friend, but you can't come into my family, for example, because you're from a different religion, different country. So that's the problem here that we see every day, and you know that for yourself.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is the problem in some of the centers as well.
Exactly.
Recently I was in Brazil, and the local Brazilian converts came and complained to me that we are not welcomed in the majority of the Shia centers are run by Lebanese, and those who convert, they don't have anywhere. If they go there, they feel
they feel rejected.
No, they don't reject them.
Unwelcome, just unwelcome.
It's obvious. They are not welcomed. They are looked at as outsiders.
That brings me the question of also segregation. As much as we have to segregate for obvious reasons in our religion, but the segregation is obviously now taken to the extent where, yes, we can mix and mingle if we're in college and we're in university and school and work. But when we're sitting in front of the ulama, or we're sitting in front of a lecture, like you mentioned in your center, because a lot of people do have these misconceptions of men and women together, and it shouldn't be. And there's boys and girls growing up like that, and they don't know the real religious rulings and the restrictions and the boundaries, and how it can be perceived and how it should be perceived, and what is it? Because at the end of the day, I think it comes from the intent, but people have a different way of thinking that if two people are sitting together, for example, or automatically, like how we say, the devil's in the middle or whatever it may be, and if it's in a closed setting. But, we're in a different era, and I'm not saying it should be acceptable, but there are boundaries. But then when we have that complete segregation, how detrimental is it to us? Like you see in the Arab world, for example, which is not the best thing, but what else do we have right now? With the segregation, and look at the problems. And then you have the modern Western cultures and countries here that we're living in London, that outside it's all fine, but as soon as you see someone sitting with another and just trying to communicate or network or whatever it may be, it's seen and perceived differently. So how do we get over that, and what are the rulings on that? Let's make it clear.
In some of the centers, big centers, I don't want to name any, one of the biggest problem where the segregated crowd is there, the ladies don't listen.
Yeah.
They say, and they complain. The speakers, I have personally heard the speaker saying,
course.
I've come all the way from abroad to give lecture, not to listen to you.
Yeah.
And listen to your voices. So ladies don't listen because they are segregated. They are
Closed off.
They are left in front of a TV, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we started this kind of like thought forum, initially started from Islamic Center of England, then it was closed. Then I took over and took the thought forum to my center, and we are continuing there. So the thought forum, when it started at Islamic Center, the gathering was all mixed.
Yeah.
And ladies, although they were all in same hall, ladies
Sat
and men,
separately,
they were
but
sitting in front of each other
Yeah.
and asking questions. And the idea of the program was to reduce the time of speech and give more chance to the ladies and men to ask
audience.
questions.
Yes.
So this also made it more attractive because it was kind of it wasn't a monologue program. It was kind of dialogue, and dialogue creates more interest. So ladies felt they were part of the program, and they were for the first time we were listening and we are witnessing that ladies are taking part in the program because
Now
they were there.
listen, audience, listen, viewers. This is the ulama. This is not someone who is just talking out of anything. That's what we have you here say. It was very respectful because you have the knowledge and you are speaking out loud about this. So do not go home now and start portraying, you know, the segregation where because you just have a different way of thinking that it's going to cause issues. If you're there with the intent to learn, to grow, develop, be part of something and to integrate in the right way, there is nothing wrong with that. And just to be seen in a particular way, to interact and talk and have conversations, even me sitting with you here is a problem in some channels, which I have been told that is not being allowed.
Oh yeah.
You know? So this is something that needs to be said. It is not our religion to have this.
It's cultural mores maybe, and people become quite territorial about it. But you use a fascinating term, segregation. I noticed that you didn't use the term separation, and maybe that's why it doesn't work, because if it was, even if we just use the term separation, means two equals being separate.
Yes,
but when you use the term segregation,
Yes,
that means
I use it
a
deliberately.
superior
Yeah.
imposing separation on an inferior.
Exactly.
So then it's a whole different concept. It's not just two people being separate or two sets of genders being separate, but it's imposed, as you said. So maybe the sisters are found in a dark, damp, cold section with just a screen, a fuzzy screen, and you know, no wonder the volume becomes louder than the actual speaker because they're just not interested.
No.
They just don't feel a part of it.
They're not part of it.
They don't feel
A
a
lot
part.
of
They don't
people-
feel included.
Yeah. I talk to the audience, I talk to the viewers that go to the majlis, that go to the lectures, that go to all of these centres that are out there right now, who are even for the youth, and they are youth being, but again, the teenagers, the girls that are out there, that has a voice, that want to be seen and heard, they want to participate, they want to also have an involvement, they're not invited. They just under this black curtain, like as if, something's going to happen, even though there's cameras everywhere, or even there's people around you sitting. Like, seriously, it doesn't make sense to me.
I don't understand.
I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't understand.
And it's just something that needs to be raised, even if you're sitting in your home. There's nothing wrong. We know the rules as to how it should be, and when and where. But even in these public places, it's carrying on like as if, something wrong, something whatever.
I understand that Muslims, men and women, have a certain adab, have a certain akhlaq, regardless of if the camera's on or off, or there's thousands of people, or two people, or three people.
But that should make you maintain
It's
more,
just,
right?
Yeah, it's just a general Islamic courtesy that you
In
kind of
fact, they
conduct
probably
yourself.
will talk less when there's a group of people that are, whether male or female, that are sitting together, because there's that respect and the manners. Give them the chance to show their akhlaq, their etiquette, their manners by being in these surroundings. And that's when I think we will have better dialogue and better even centres which are going to, give these talks, but not just for the men to speak and not to be the first ones to speak as well. That's the other thing.
What, the first, the middle, and the last, possibly.
Exactly, in most of the time, yes.
But just for a second, bringing it back to
masculinity.
Masculinity. I think that something came to mind when you were both speaking, and I thought about maybe the need for some kind of repair to take place, because if we are having a kind of proliferation of divorce and a kind of divorce culture and a separation culture. I'm wondering if it's possible that we can have some kind of symposium about co-parenting, because it's not the fact that two people decide that they are no longer in love and they're not on the same page romantically anymore. That isn't what makes it necessary.
Exactly.
It's a challenge for children regardless, psychologically, but if parents are able to maintain, we're not married, but your mom and dad, and give, like make the children feel secure and cooperate, then I think we give boys a better chance of having a healthy self-regard as well as our daughters. But when we have unresolved issues from marriage where we're using the children as weapons, we're weaponizing the children as weapons of war.
That's wrong.
It's not. It's only going to end ugly. It's only going to end ugly. So we need to really address this in our society, but in our community also.
At the time of divorce, I always advise the couple who are divorcing that the divorce is between you and not your children. And I tell, if I get a chance, I tell the children as well, look, she's going to be your mother forever, he's going to be your father, and you have a responsibility to respect both. And the parents should also not involve the kids. And the other thing, they should not use children to spy on each other. In many cases, I've advised the children, I've talked to the children privately in divorce cases and told them, look, what goes on in your father's house is not your obligation and duty to report it.
To give a printout to mummy.
To mummy. Because it is going to annoy her. Because she may be discovering that, oh, he used to behave with me like this and now he's treating the new wife in a different manner, and kids are reporting why he didn't treat me in the same way.
Oh wow, you should see Dad's new kitchen.
Yeah.
Wow, it's silver everywhere.
So they
and
don't
it's this
have
and
to
it's that.
report everything,
Wife
what
is
is
fuming.
going on.
Ex-wife is fuming.
What you're saying is so obvious, but unfortunately it does not happen. And that's why I personally am qualified as a relationship coach. A lot of people come to me for coaching when they are seeking separation. But I say, don't just stop there. And don't just say that after divorce or separation, you got to stop with the therapy. It needs to continue afterwards, and no one talks about this. And it's not counseling where you get to the detrimental stage. Coaching is powerful where you are tolerating something or you're going through a challenge, and that's where I step in. And people do not take those steps. And I step in so that they can actually come to these agreements after that, because you still need to manage those children. You still need to manage that household. There's still cousins, relatives, friends, and family involved, investment in many ways other than just financial. And what you've just said is just a touch on the surface to when I get into that space, and I coach couples even afterwards in this, and it's really powerful, because then they can open up, because this is something I am trained in. You know yourself as how the psychology is, how we can do things without realizing. The unconscious comes in, the subconscious comes in, our habits come in, the emotion comes in,
baggage comes in,
stages of grief and understanding, and each side have to know it. So don't think there's a separation, there's a divorce, that's it, I'm done. No, that's when the work really starts, and that's when I come in to help. So, people like myself and yourself and many others, including the Sayyid who's actually involved in family affairs, do take this advice and take it seriously.
Definitely,
if you want 100%. To live an optimal life and have well-being mentally, physically, and have good family relations, regardless of your situation, this is what you need to do.
I'd put it this way. Sometimes marriages need reconciliation, intervention, counselling, or work, and sometimes it just might be conciliation. Like we've agreed to put the towel in, but there are children involved, there are lives involved, there's human beings' well-being at stake, and so for that reason we are going to carve out some kind of a peace treaty, and these are the terms and conditions of that agreement, and how we intend to operate going into the future for peace.
For peace, for well-being, for living Islamically, because we say we are religious and we're followers of the Ahlebait. And this is what it comes down to, not just your salah, not just all the 5 pillars, but how your treatment is afterwards when you're faced with a challenge. As we know, we're going to be challenged and tested every time. This is when it comes into play, your faith, your belief, your trust, your teachings from a young age, and your religious education. That's when it comes into play. And this is what we need to really come in there. we have come to the end of the show. Inshallah, we will continue, and I'm sure I'll have you back. I really appreciate your time and all the knowledge and insight. I know I've been kind of heated. This is a really, really tough topic, and I'm not here to offend anyone. I'm not here to call out anyone at all. It is just to say that I have the insight of the household. I deal with this every day in my profession, and that's why I've been given this platform. So inshallah, I'm highlighting these social issues so that we can improve ourselves. It is me included in this. We all have room for development, and personal development is something that we need to consider as education for the rest of our lives. It's a learning that we need to take upon ourselves, and these programs and the series that's going to follow, inshallah, will take upon different topics, different aspects of our lives, so that we can actually make a difference to it. So whether it's masculinity, whether it's role models, leaderships, and being segregated, practicing our religion instead of culture, all of these things need to be taken into consideration. And inshallah, we will be back with new guests and more topics, and hopefully more participation from yourself as well. Thank you so much to my guests, Bilal and Hugh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sayyid, thank you so much for coming in today, and thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.